At the dawn of the 20th century, Italy was a nation in turmoil. Economic struggles, political instability, and the scars of World War I left the country desperate for change. Benito Mussolini, a former socialist-turned-nationalist, saw an opportunity to seize power. Born in 1883, Mussolini had once been a radical socialist, but his views shifted during World War I. He embraced nationalism and founded the fascist movement in 1919, promising to restore Italy's lost glory. His message resonated with war veterans, industrialists, and those disillusioned with Italy's weak democratic government. By 1922, Italy was on the verge of collapse. Strikes, riots, and political assassinations plagued the country. Mussolini and his black shirts, a paramilitary force, capitalized on the chaos. In October 1922, he led the March on Rome, a show of force that pressured King Victor Emmanuel III to appoint him prime minister. The king, fearing civil war, surrendered power without resistance. Once in office, Mussolini began dismantling Italy's fragile democracy. In 1924, he consolidated power by rigging elections and silencing opponents. The murder of socialist leader Giacomo Matteotti, an outspoken critic of Mussolini, sent a chilling message to those who opposed him. By 1925, he had declared himself Il Duce, the supreme leader of Italy. Mussolini's dictatorship had begun. His next step? Transforming Italy into a totalitarian state where fascism dictated every aspect of life. By the late 1920s, Mussolini had solidified his grip on Italy. The government was no longer democratic, ruled with absolute power. Fascist propaganda flooded the streets, glorifying Il Duce as Italy's savior. The black-clad blackshirts enforced loyalty, silencing dissent with intimidation, imprisonment, or even assassination. Mussolini's totalitarian regime reshaped every aspect of Italian life. Schools taught children to worship the state, newspapers printed only government-approved stories, and workers' unions were replaced with fascist-controlled labor organizations. His goal? To revive the glory of the Roman Empire and make Italy a dominant world power. In 1929, Mussolini secured a major political victory with the Lateran Treaty, ending a decades-long conflict with the Catholic Church. The treaty recognized Vatican City as an independent state, gaining Mussolini the Pope's approval, a move that strengthened his control over religious Italians. Determined to expand Italy's influence, Mussolini turned to military conquest. In 1935, he launched an invasion of Ethiopia, one of the few independent nations in Africa. Italian forces, equipped with modern 20th-century weaponry, overwhelmed Ethiopian resistance. The world condemned the invasion, but Mussolini ignored international pressure. He saw war as a way to prove Italy's strength. By the late 1930s, Mussolini aligned himself with Adolf Hitler, forming the Rome-Berlin axis. Fascism and militarism spread across Europe, setting the stage for global conflict. Italy's future was tied to Nazi Germany, but Mussolini believed he was still in control of his own destiny. Little did he know, his ambitions would soon lead Italy into a devastating war. As the Second World War erupted in 1939, Benito Mussolini believed Italy was ready to reclaim its former glory. Inspired by Nazi Germany's early military successes, he declared war on Britain and France in 1940, hoping for quick victories. But his ambitions far outweighed Italy's military capabilities. Italian soldiers, dressed in standard-issue 20th-century military uniforms, were poorly equipped and unprepared for modern warfare. Mussolini's campaigns in Greece, North Africa, and the Soviet Union ended in humiliating defeats. German forces had to intervene multiple times to save their struggling ally. The illusion of Italian strength was crumbling. By 1943, Italy was on the brink of collapse. Allied forces invaded Sicily, forcing Mussolini to retreat to Rome. The Italian people, once enchanted by his promises, had turned against him. On July 25, 1943, King Victor Emmanuel III ordered Mussolini's arrest, stripping him of power. Italy soon surrendered to the Allies. However, Mussolini's downfall wasn't the end of his story. In September 1943, Nazi forces rescued him from prison, installing him as the puppet leader of the Italian Social Republic in northern Italy. But his rule was an illusion. Germany controlled everything. As the war neared its end, Mussolini attempted to flee to Switzerland in April 1945, disguised in a German military coat. On April 28, 1945, Italian partisans captured and executed Mussolini in the small village of Giulino di Mazegra. His body, along with his mistress Clara Petacci, was taken to Milan and hung upside down in Piazzale Loreto for all to see, a final symbol of his failed empire. The man who once ruled Italy with an iron fist had met a brutal end. The fascist dream had died with him, leaving Italy to rebuild from the ashes of war. The legacy of Benito Mussolini remains a cautionary tale of power gained through fear, war waged on false confidence, and the inevitable collapse of tyranny. With Mussolini dead and fascist Italy in ruins, the country faced a long road to recovery. World War II had left Italian cities devastated, its economy shattered, and its people divided. The once glorified fascist regime had collapsed, leaving Italy to grapple with its dark past. In 1946, Italy officially abolished its monarchy through a national referendum. King Victor Emmanuel III, who had once enabled Mussolini's rise, abdicated in disgrace. The Italian Republic was born, marking the end of the old order. Political parties banned under fascism, such as the Christian Democrats and Italian Communist Party, re-emerged, shaping Italy's new democratic future. Throughout the 1950s and 60s, Italy underwent rapid reconstruction. Funded by the Marshall Plan, industries rebounded, cities were rebuilt, and Italy transformed into a modern economic power. The era of fascism faded, but its scars remained. Former fascists either faced trials or quietly reintegrated into society, and the country struggled with the memory of Mussolini's rule. Despite his downfall, Mussolini's image did not completely disappear. Some Italians, particularly in the far right, continued to view him as a misunderstood leader. His former supporters glorified his rule, citing economic progress and nationalist pride, while his opponents condemned him as a dictator who had led Italy to disaster. By the late 20th century, Italy had firmly aligned itself with Western democracy. It became a member of NATO and the European Union, distancing itself from its fascist past. But reminders of Mussolini's ruleless speeches, architecture, and even underground movements continued to stir debate. Mussolini had once envisioned an empire that would rival Rome's greatness. Instead, he left behind a legacy of war, suffering, and national humiliation. His story serves as a lesson in the dangers of dictatorship, propaganda, and blind ambition. Though the man was gone, history would never forget Il Duce.